My dad used to say things like, Zach, don't ever forget where you came from. And I think that's why he called me Squirt.
Welcome to the Sports Carnage Podcast, presented by Detroit Sports Nation, featuring Paul Rochon, D. Dylan Bear, Ryan Griffin, and Matthew Basson, bringing the most arrogant takes on the planet straight to your ears. We don't promise to always be right, but we promise to act like we are.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Carnage Podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Ryan Griffin. We actually have a very special edition for you, if you will, today. It is our first interview ever. We are on the come up, and we got, not to pat ourselves on the back, but pretty good interview, if I do say so myself. We have a local comedian here. He's traveled the world, been on a trillion podcasts. He's actually got over 90,000 views on YouTube, and that's just on his page alone. If you went on views that he's been featured on, he probably cracks 100,000. But we are very excited to have him here. You probably have seen his work on the Matt Patricia press conferences on YouTube. And if you haven't, very funny. There will be a link in our description below to our podcast, to our YouTubes, wherever we decide to post this, which is going to be everywhere. You can check out his website, which is zachwithaz.com. He has a new comedy album coming out on February 25th, which is going to be this upcoming Tuesday for you guys. Not the Worst Dad. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Zach Martina.
Going on. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
There we go. Cool. I'm great, buddy. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's honor. Like I said, it's our first interview. So, you know, when we put this out, it'll reflect on us way more than it does yourself. So you had it looks like you put out an album in 2017. Was it Skunk
Yeah,
World?
man. It was Skunk Man, and my
Man.
daughters named it because I said I always let them name my albums, and they went with Skunk Man on the first one because, and I quote, I fart all the time. So from the mouths of babes comes honesty, and that is how Skunk Man was born.
So it looks like you leveled up a little bit in your daughter's life. But not the worst dad.
Yeah, not the worst dad is I'm working my way up. Get that on a mug, man.
Perfect. And just throw out your socials real quick at the beginning. So if anyone tails off,
rock on.
You still got them.
Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok are all Zach Martina, ZachMartina. And Instagram, you can find me at Zach Martina, but there is a dot in between. So just search Zach Martina. You'll find me. You'll see the hair.
Just go on Google. It'll be the first one to pop
find
up.
them. Only one.
Right, easy enough. It's called brand recognition.
That's right. Why do you think I keep this hair and this beard?
Right. Yeah, I mean it worked out well for your Matt Patricia videos, and that's I think that's the first place that I want to start, only because I was a very strong proponent that Matt Patricia should have been fired. But I'm wondering for you, because I'm assuming you're a fan of the Lions and of Patricia, to even kind of have that idea pop in your head. So first, kind of how did that idea start? And number two, as a football fan, if that is indeed where this came from, did you want Matt Patricia to get fired for the sake of the Lions, or were you in the root for radio mode where you knew it was going to help you out if you stayed?
Man, when he got hired, and I was like, oh, he's got a beard. I can do something with this. A few Father's Days ago, my kids got me a green screen, so it had just been sitting there collecting dust. I figured I needed to figure out a way to use it, and so he got hired, and I was jacked, and I did not expect anybody to like them, but here we are, and we're in the third season. I am a big football fan, lifelong Lions fan, and I'll be honest, when he got hired, I was like, oh, this is the guy. We're going to figure it out. This is going to be great. And then this past season was real disappointing. I don't know. I mean, statistically, he should have been fired, and so should have Bob Quinn. They're not doing their job. I mean, they're trading Quandre Diggs for a 5th-round pick, and now we're talking about sending Slay off for a 3rd and 6th after what, 3 or 4 Pro Bowls? It's ridiculous.
Hey,
So
you're preaching to the choir over here.
I mean, I was calling for his job only because he wasn't getting it done. But that being said, I don't know. I guess we just kind of have to buy in now or jump ship. The decision's been made. We're stuck, at least for a year.
Yeah, and it depends on obviously a lot about what they decide to do with this draft class, and then all this cap space that they have. But
I want to make it crystal clear. I want to do positive press conferences. No one wants them to win more than I do. But when we drop, 11 fourth quarter leads and blow all those games and injuries and just mismanaged calls, they're going to come out a little scathing.
They lost 8 games in a row. And maybe if they did win, you wouldn't have to kill the pencil.
No, that's fun to do though. That pencil's my favorite character.
This is my favorite one, the little golf pencil.
Yeah,
That shit had me dying. So for just like transition, kind of into comedy, I guess. What's the first thing that what was kind of your inspiration behind it? Because I've always been a big fan of stand up, and I've never taken the leap to actually go ahead and get on stage, like you did. So where did you fall in love with stand up, and then what made you really want to get out there and just perform in front of crowds?
man, I grew up in that time when Comedy Central was just Comedy Central Presents, the old half-hour specials, and then reruns of Saturday Night Live. So that's what I was. I mean, I would watch the Lions during the football season, and then I really didn't pay attention to sports the rest of the year. It was just me watching those reruns and half-hour specials. And then I was like, oh, I could do this. And then I realized maybe I couldn't. So that was 18. And then 25 came along, and comic told me, listen, just if you try it, it's going to go great and you'll be hooked, or it's going to go terrible. And at least you can say you did. And I'm sure it went terrible, but at the time I thought it went pretty well.
Right.
And that was 8.5 years ago. So, I mean, you're right. It comes down to just getting up there and trying it. That's all it is. My recommendation for anyone that wants to try it is don't tell anyone you know the first time. That way they don't have to, you're not hearing their shit for the rest of your life. And then the second or third time, if it goes well, try it out again.
Try it again and invite some family members eventually.
That's right.
So for being a lot of even stand-up comedians that you hear talking now about the about the cancel culture that they have. Sure. And you've even heard some comedians who are they try and almost tailor their newer material now so that they don't get canceled, or people bring up things like that. Is that anything that's affected the way that you present yourself, whether it's on social media or up on stage during one of your shows? Are you more conscious of if you started 8 years ago, is there things that you would say 8 years ago that you wouldn't say now in fear of people trying to dig it up later?
I think for me, I'm a darker comic in the grand scheme of things. I think dark jokes are funny. I wouldn't say that it has affected me at all. I will say that sometimes, you're up on stage and you're going with a thought, and then all of a sudden you're just thinking, oh, well, this is the culture we live in, and you kind of play into it. But I mean, I've definitely seen it affect some of my my favorite comics and my friends. Some people are tailoring their acts to it, and others are really leaning into it. And I mean, if it came to me, 9 times out of 10, someone is going out looking for comedy. We live in an age where you can Google anything. What are you so pissed about? You're paying all this money for these tickets. Google it. It takes you 35 seconds to watch this. You're an idiot if you get upset about some of this stuff that you go to see. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I can't stand it, but it is fun to lean into because, I mean, obviously you can see I get a little amped about it, but so do the people listening, and it is fun to ruffle feathers, man, especially when you're not wrong.
Right, and that's one thing that that's always kind of been crazy to me. We just did a story on the last podcast that we recorded. There's this dude who went to this Houston Astros batting practice, and he started banging on trash cans and heckling the players. And I love the pettiness, and it was really, really funny to me. But at the same time, you took time out of your day, you spent your money to go to this batting practice to get the access, only to voice that you didn't agree with with these individuals. So it's
Was he a
always,
fan
it's always
of
strange to me.
Was he a fan? Not a fan of the Astros, or was it someone else?
I'm assuming the gentleman's not a fan of the Astros, unless he's really wanting to stick it to his own team. Because it's not it's not like the Lions where they're so bad that you might go and then start to boo because you're so upset with what you see. Like they're champions.
He's got. I like the idea though that this guy's got the disposable income to go and troll. He's a
Tuesday afternoon at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, like he's a Nationals fan or something, and he's just so pissed about the loss that he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go check this out, and then get in their heads. Like, I like the idea that they're treating it like it's professional wrestling. Like
a heel.
Yeah, I love that idea. I'm all for that guy. That guy's just out there having fun, I think. I mean, I don't know him. He could be a crazy person, but
he probably is rich though.
Oh, we all are a little bit, right?
Rich in spirit.
It's that same guy that was punching that seat on the airline. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh my God, yeah. It seemed, and the video wasn't very long, but it seemed like he was determined, and it seemed like he either going for a minute.
For sure, and I can't believe he really sparked a debate.
He just started the dialogue, the conversation.
Yeah, if you don't want people reclining in front of, or if you're sitting on an airplane and you don't want someone reclining into you, then fly Spirit. The seats don't even recline. Problem solved.
Like, what is it? The CEO of Delta came out and said you should be asking.
What's that?
That's crazy. They said the CEO of Delta came out and said, like, you should ask the person behind you if you can, or whatever airline that the gentleman was on. I think
they're not asking if they fart. They give you the capability to do it. I don't think that's ridiculous. I mean, at the very least, what they should do is limit, and like the old school movie seats, that will rock a little bit, but not enough to deter anyone behind you.
Yeah, not like the ones now.
Yeah, me too. I took my kids to the movies the other day, and it was a movie theater where the seats weren't like that, and I was like, what have I become? I'm like, I wanted to get up and leave. I was like, we'll pirate this at home.
Like we're in 2020.
That's right.
There's no reason. You should have lunchroom seats in your movie theater.
Yeah, it's just a sheet and a projector. Old school cafeteria screening.
Oh, that one's now you lift up the you can like lift up the middle so you can get a hand job if you bring a blanket or something.
Hand job and a bottomless bag of popcorn, right?
That seems like it'd just be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's all buttery.
And you got the butter on there. No, that's a lube, man. That's friction
Butter
in it
and
up.
salt though.
The salt's not going to be anyone's friend. The salt's that's going to be a problem.
Maybe you get kernels and play. Maybe if you shave, you won't get kernels anyway. That's
just lodged all up in your tween. What the hell was showering? They're just dropping.
Like you take a really hot shower and these like pop.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
So come out with a whole little bag of popcorn afterwards.
You make the mistake of telling your friends, they start calling you Orville Redenbacher.
You market that. Well, probably not. It's probably trademarked.
Yeah.
I don't think you could change your comedy name to Orville Redenbacher. Is your stage name your real name?
If I changed, yeah, my stage name is my real name. But if I changed, I took one of those L's out of Orville, I think I'd be fine. There's always a way around it.
I wonder if that's trademark too.
I mean,
like, just because someone else thought of that.
I wouldn't be.
Like,
I mean, that would be wise.
Like what? Like if you think you can name off-brand cereals, but they're all taken. Like Kernel Crunch.
Yeah, Fruit Loops is like what they want, the FROOT and the FRUIT, just in case,
Where for the album, where can they buy it? Where can they find it? Stream it?
Well, it is available. I don't know when this is going to air, but it is available and ready to listen to on Tuesday, February 25th. But if you listen to it before then, it's available for pre-order now. It's available for pre-order on iTunes and Amazon Music and Google Play. And then when it comes out, it'll be on Spotify and Amazon Music, and it'll be available on Amazon and iTunes and Google. And there's something else called like Teeple or something. I don't know what it is, but it's some other streaming platform. If you search, it'll be everywhere. I'm told by the label it'll be everywhere. So
you just search "Not the Worst Dad."
Yep, you'll find it.
Does
Not
it
the
pop
Worst
up?
Dad, Zach Martina. It'll pop up. It's a fun album
Usually
too.
what
I scream at a lot of people.
Scream at them?
Yeah, they interrupt the
Ben?
show, and then I go at them.
Oh, you have hecklers on the album?
Oh yeah.
So spoiler
there's
alert.
one. There's one.
That's wild.
But it's fun. I wish they wouldn't have done it, but it ended up in a nice little moment. And if you want to see me screaming at people, follow me on TikTok. I post all my my meltdowns on TikTok.
Say all the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
too dark for the comedy stage.
Right.
On what happens when people do heckle you? Like, do you usually have them kicked out, or do you go back and forth with them? Because like, if you heckle a comedian, you're not gonna win.
I live by a rule of 3 in that when they're heckling, I ask them very politely the first time to stop, so the entire crowd can hear me politely ask them. And then the second time, I authoritatively tell them to shut their mouths, and the crowd has now seen it escalating. And at this point, they're annoyed by it. So if they go a third time, it's open season. I can say whatever I want to them. At which point, I'll go back and forth with them a little bit. And if they're just kind of like drunk and incoherent, at that point, I'll have them thrown out. I mean, most hecklers, I would say 7 out of 10 hecklers don't mean any harm. They just don't know comedy show etiquette. They're trying to have fun. They think they're adding to it. Some people just try to be hard asses, and they're like, "Oh, you're funny, make me laugh." Like, just alpha bullshit, you know.
I feel like 3 times is definitely a good warning point.
Well, by that point,
like,
too,
if you go 4 times, you're just asking to get kicked out.
Yeah, exactly. So
I guess if you even really go twice, I saw. I don't know how recent it was, but it was probably within the year. I saw like Carlos Mencia do that, because every time he gets up, people obviously yell at him about Joe Rogan, and he tried to do like this. It's like this weird flip of he got mad at them, and then he's like, "But no, I'm not mad at you, bro. I'm trying to do this," and try to like educate him. And, I don't know. Obviously, I don't like Carlos Mencia since all of that. As well, I guess it's like a 15-year-old story, but I'll ask it anyway. Like, as a comedian, what's your take on even that specific situation, or just kind of anything else where
about Carlos stealing stuff?
Yeah, about him stealing stuff, and then even just other comedians. Like, if a joke is similar, is there ever any type of benefit of the doubt where we just had maybe the same thought as opposed to somebody just ripped someone else's entire joke?
There is certainly parallel thinking, but Carlos Mencia doesn't do that. He takes jokes word for word. There's no way 2 human beings have like the same context, setup, punch, and even tags, mannerisms, inflections, rhythms. There's no way. He flat out steals them. Now on the flip side, if there are 2 comics in Michigan that have parallel thought, I mean, you kind of just have to know and trust each other. And I don't know, there are people definitely steal, and it's bullshit because people work real hard and take years on jokes. But then there are other things where it's just parallel thinking. Hey, I was thinking about toilets, you were thinking about toilets, and we both came to the same conclusion. Maybe we should dig a little deeper and find a different angle.
Speaking of toilets, where's the weirdest place that a joke has ever hit you?
I mean, I had one of my favorite jokes from my first album hit me while I was peeing in the urinal. It's a joke about, you guys can go listen to Skunk Man, but a guy was looking, he was hammered, and I've got a lot of hair, and he was looking me up and down, and he was looking at and he goes, "Damn, dude, you got a great head of hair." And I said, "That's pretty confusing because I'm proud of both." And then I kind of take that away. Yeah, I mean, comedy, I don't know, you hope to catch it, but you're kind of always looking at things through a different lens. It's jacked up. People definitely get annoyed by it. I have definitely strained friendships.
I did so do you have a lot of jokes that are about your friends?
Not so much about my friends. Some about my friends. I don't know that they know necessarily. I do a lot of jokes about my family, my mom and my dad and my brother. And then I do a lot of jokes about being married, and my wife she's just the best. If you all are looking for real estate, Emily Martina at Expert Realty Solutions. She's
nice
great.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. She's got just the biggest heart and a terrific sense of humor, and she knows it's all in good fun. So we like to sit down and write together. And then my kids now, my daughters, they're 9 and 7, and they're really developing their own little sense of humor. So I don't know, dinner's just a lot of fun, man. We figure out jokes, and then I take them in whatever direction I want to, and then we put them on the stage. And you'll hear a lot of those in the album. You'll get to know my family, or you'll think you'll know. You get to know my family quite a bit.
So it sounds like, obviously your wife's cool with the jokes. How do your parents react to, or at least how do they react at the start to being put in some of your jokes, even if they weren't, especially if they weren't the most maybe flattering?
Tell you, my brother, he's been terrific with it. My dad, he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, but he was super funny dude and very, very supportive of it. And my mom, she's been very supportive of it too. She's always believed in me as a comedian. I definitely haven't had any blowback on that part. I've been very fortunate that I've gotten a lot of support.
That's cool though, and that's obviously huge to have people who support you when you're doing something that seems obviously against the grain, and especially if you're trying to do something like within the entertainment industry where there are so many people that like aren't able to get to any type of level that they want to be at, then there are the few that are. So to have people out there that that want you to succeed and don't mind being the butt of some jokes to make that happen.
No, and to be in my position where a couple people, my wife and daughters not only support me and believe in me, but also completely inspire me. I'm very, very fortunate to be in the, like, I was doing comedy for about a year before I met my wife and before the kids were in the picture. And honestly, as soon as I got into, boyfriend, husband, fiance, father mode, like that's when things really started to click. So it was a real, I hate saying this word because the hashtag has ruined it, but it's been a real blessing.
So with kind of piggybacking off of that, because I'm sure being a father changed you as like a person, and you just said it started to like really help things click in your career. Did it change anything about your comedy? Because I'm sure it changed, who Zach Martina is. But did being a father and a husband specifically do anything that changed just even how you thought about comedy or how you approached being on stage, knowing that there were now other people in the picture that like had to be supported, so whatever you were doing like had to work?
I mean, I guess there was certainly a little bit more of a sense of urgency in it. I wouldn't say that my jokes changed at all. They've always kind of been darker, but I became more confident in my point of view, that's for sure. Like we talked about earlier, it's not so hard when you go up there and do it, and you the things that you're saying are right or true. And it has been easier for me to tap into my real feeling and emotions, and just kind of in doing so, I found that the crowds tend to relate a lot more to that. Like that stuff I told you about, it being married and talking about my kids, and like we're all having in good spirits, but sure, they're in a darker vein. I can't tell you how many people come up to me after shows and they're just like, that's what I relate to. That's what I really enjoy the most. So, yeah, it's been a good thing. And like I said, it's just, it all really, really clicked. I think it just resonates with a lot of people because everybody's got their own family stuff.
Something that I've kind of always been interested with in like comedians, and it might just be a stereotype because you see it on, especially like a comedian does like a guest spot on a TV show or something, where
Right.
people come up to him like, "Hey, tell me a joke," and then they're like, "Nah, no, I'm not trying to be funny right now. I'm just in this bar or whatever." Like, is that stuff that happens to you? And if so, like how just fucking annoying is that? Like, it's probably especially after a show, if you do it in a club or something, and then you get off stage and someone else gets on. Other people that are coming up to you, like trying to get you into comedian mode or funny mode or whatever.
You definitely, I mean, you on stage is definitely you with the volume turned all the way up. I'm certainly not the way I am on stage, off stage. I mean, it's too exhausting. I would have a heart attack. I'd sweat out. But yeah, people definitely, they come with, I think what the one thing is, like, people come up to you after shows and they think they know you because you've just shared so much about yourself with them. But what they don't understand is you don't know them. So it's very one-sided, and it just comes off as like, oh my gosh, this stranger. It's a little jarring sometimes because people don't, I mean, a lot of people do, but not everyone understands boundaries. So it's just, and I mean, a lot of times at clubs, people are just hammered drunk. They're out there having a good time. So those inhibitions are a little bit into the wind. But like I said, for the most part, everybody means well. No one's trying to be a dick. You kind of figure out how to deal with it.
So after shows, are you a little bit more accessible, or if somebody says like, hey, we have X bag of drugs or something, or hey, we want to get a drink with you, is that something that you're more open to and you're like, all right, this is sweet, I'm getting free whatever, or is it like, no, you gotta leave me alone, I'm trying to unwind after being on stage?
I'm usually down to have a drink or something if ever anyone invites, but I mean, it really depends on if I'm driving or anything. So a lot of times here in Michigan, I'm coming right home after the show, so I'm like, I'm not going to screw with it. I tend not to, but if I'm out on the road and someone's like, hey, let's have a beer, or I'd love to buy you a beer, I'm not going to say no. I don't want to be a dick. Who the hell am I? No one was buying me beers before I had comedy, so what am I going to say no all of a sudden? Doesn't make any sense.
What's like the weirdest thing that a fan has asked you?
A lot of people a lot of women ask to touch my hair, and for every woman that asks to touch my hair, a man will ask to touch my beard. It's pretty much one for one. I mean, not always at the same time, but like a woman will ask to touch my hair on Friday, and then the Sunday night show, a man will ask to touch my beard. It always balances out. I'd say that's the most consistently strange thing that I get.
Do you let them?
Sometimes they're pretty weird. I'm like, nah, it's cool. I'll pull my hair back or something.
You like look at their hands first, see if they have a little dirt under their fingernails. Like, oh, not you.
Not the hands so much as the eyes. If they got those dead eyes, I'm like, no, I don't want it up in your basement. It's like,
you order some cocktails and you wake up without a kidney.
I don't want you running your fingers through my hair, getting a couple strands, and going home and making a hair doll. I don't need that voodoo shit.
Will there be hard copies of the album?
It's all digital download. So yeah, I don't have any like CDs or albums or anything, because cars just aren't made with, computers aren't even made with disk drives anymore. So, yeah, it's just a download, to Spotify, or it'll be on Pandora. Like I said, Amazon, Google, and iTunes. And then after shows, I've got a download card where you can download it directly from the label, which is heliumcomedyrecords.com. So throw in the code and it'll download for free.
Is there any specific merch that the people can get?
Right now it's just the albums out there. I had some stickers for a while, but then I got the albums and I stopped printing them. I had shirts for a minute, but those are a real pain in the ass to haul around. So at this point, it is just online content and the albums.
Going back, I guess, to the Matt Patricia thing, because they do pretty well on YouTube. Do you know of anyone like within the Lions organization, even if not Patricia himself, that has like seen it and commented on it?
I can say with some confidence that people in the Lions organization have definitely seen them.
Or they send you like a cease and desist?
No, I would. That would be a victory, man. I would stop, but I would find it like I would just change the blue a little bit, and I would have a friend make like a different Lions logo, and I'd have there be no word. Like we would all know what I'm doing and what team I'm doing. They're always around it, but they haven't asked me to stop yet. But if they do, man, that's a win. And like I said, I don't want to be a dick. I don't want to be mean. I want them to win. I want Matt Patricia to. No one wants Matt Patricia to be the savior of Detroit football more than me. Nobody wants that more.
100 years of content,
right? So yeah, I really do hope that this third year is what gets it done for him. But I'm not gonna be nice about the content of the quality of the football if the quality's shit. Just try and win. I know you're trying, but win some games. Give this city something to be excited about. We've been burned so many times. Ugh.
And with I guess like with content, is there anything else that you're working on? Whether it's another comedy album, I'm sure you're always writing jokes, but with like your YouTube series or your YouTube videos, is there anything coming down the pipeline that the people should be checking out?
So I'm slowly posting just like some stream of conscious riffs, like I said, on TikTok, and
Yeah.
they're getting on Instagram. And then I have been writing my next album, which I mean that's probably years away until I get it to where I want it to be. But I have been developing some characters that could play well on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram that have beards. I like the idea of someone like a professional homeless man, like a guy who's not actually homeless, but that's how he makes his living, you know?
Yeah.
I like that idea.
business
I like
card.
the idea of like a Hagrid type character doing a cooking show for wizards, but every time he, puts the potion together, it always blows up in his face. Like it's just, I don't know. I'm thinking about some characters. I mean, at this stage of the game or in this climate, it's all about content. So I got to get some shit out there.
So the process of writing an album, when you write, do you think of like having an album in mind, or are you just writing jokes and then kind of what plays well when you do them on stage is how you craft maybe the rest of the kind of the rest of like it around, or is it like with the conscious thought of this is definitely an album?
This next one, my album after Not the Worst Dad, like I said, the one that's about a few years away, that'll be something that I put together where it's the idea of an album. But the first two albums were just about writing jokes, finding out what works, and then honestly, it got to the point where I was like, I need to write new jokes, so let's put these on an album and find the through line, and then you kind of craft the set together and make it so it's not like kind of all over the place, but it's got a nice through line that people can follow along on.
With so with the jokes you write, is it usually like, and I'm not saying all the time your rough draft's going to be the final copy, but
it never is.
when you first like think of it, do you usually have most of the base down, or is it like you think of a joke and maybe it doesn't go over well and you're like, I just know this is funny, so you start trying to like piece it together in other ways?
There are definitely jokes out there. Like I'm doing some jokes right now that aren't hitting the way I want them to, but I know that they're funny. So it's just a matter of finding the context, finding the order of the words, and getting it done. So there's definitely that. But a lot of times when I write a new joke, there's just, for lack of a better phrase, there's a lot of fat on it. It's like 4 to 5 sentences, and when it's all said and done, I'll have trimmed it down to, a sentence or two. I like to work in lines of 3. I like rule of 3. Like setup, punch, tag, contextualize, setup, punch. I mean, just as little fat as possible, and getting to the punchline as quickly as you can.
Because I noticed like even one of Dave Chappelle's jokes, I think this is a bit about the like the terrorist on the plane, and that they won't take black hostages. There's like, I want to say it's either 2 or 3 different specials, not where he's doing the same joke, and they're probably not even specials. It's probably like a late night show or something, where he has it, and you can tell like the idea is the same, and then by the time it comes out on Killing Them Softly, like it's the premise is the same, but now it's kind of his mastered version of it.
I would encourage everyone to go watch a clip on YouTube of a guy named Gary Gulman. And it's a set on Conan, and it's about state abbreviations. For my money, Gary Gulman is one of the best comedians working today, but he does this joke about how they came up with all the state abbreviations, and it's perfect. It is bulletproof. And in talking to him one day after a show, he was telling me that joke took him 7 years to finish.
Jeez.
So like it starts off with just a line, but then all of a sudden it's 5 minutes long, and it's crafted. The fat's off it. You're hitting those punches super quick. It's a beautiful thing.
So even with the 7-year thing, do you feel like people appreciate what comics and what comedians do enough, or like the work that goes into really making even a bit that lasts for 5 or 6 minutes? Do you think people understand like how much time and effort go into just making that 5 to 6 minute thing?
No,
enjoyable for them, the listener.
Yeah, definitely. They don't understand the work that goes into it, because the best comics make it seem effortless. They make it seem like it's just conversational, but I don't think, I certainly, before I started, I was like, oh, these people are just brilliant individuals whose minds work incredibly fast.
Yeah.
I had no idea when I was young that they would spend years in notebooks and different drafts and versions and everything, chiseling this thing down to the way it is. And when you hear it, people don't, and they shouldn't. Why should they? I mean, I don't know what goes into balancing a friggin' I don't even know accounting terms to finish this analogy. Okay. So there's no reason that they should know what goes into making a joke. But I honestly believe that the average Joe or Josephine does not know.
With dark humor, and my transition sucks. With the dark humor, have you ever done like any roast?
I've done some roasts. I've done a couple. They're fun, but I don't know. I think just people aren't. It's such a weird thing because you're not equipped. A human being doesn't like criticisms or burns coming at them. You can put on your face as much as you want to, but there are jokes that are going to come through because people are looking for the punchlines, and there is some truth behind every joke, and they're telling you how they see you in some way. Maybe they don't. It's not as vicious, but it's like, okay, well, you do think I look like that, so
yeah, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've done a couple. I don't like to do them unless they're for people that I really, really know.
Okay.
But I mean,
that was
you can do them. It's just you got to be willing to go for the jugular, and you got to be willing to take it too, because they get their turn.
Yeah, because that was kind of my next question too. Like, do you prefer it for like a stranger that you maybe know of, or that you can see and get a 20-minute visual on them, and then think of like quick kind of mean stereotypes in your head, or like just like somebody because I remember Seth Rogen did the roast. I think it was a James Franco, where he went up and they had a bunch of like his actual friends there and doing it, and he's not a dark comedian, right? But he's like, this is so hard because I really, really like all these people. And I was just wondering if it's easier when you don't know someone, or when it's someone you're really close to.
I would say it's harder when you don't know someone, because at least when there's someone you close to, like you have there is a basis of your relationship. There is a love there, or a hatred there, or however you feel about that person. It's known. You understand what's going on in that person's head. Whereas when it's a stranger, it's like, all right, we all came here under the same idea that we're gonna kind of rip each other apart, but you just don't know how that affects them. And for me personally, I don't want to make anyone sad. I mean, it's one thing if they're asking for it, sure, then let's go into it. But to be mean just for the sake of being mean, that's not necessarily my cup of tea.
That makes sense. They just seem, they seem funny, obviously, to me, but I'm not the one on the stage getting torn apart.
Some of those jokes are brilliantly crafted, but they are designed to make you feel bad. They're designed to make every single person in that room laugh except you. And
yeah,
I mean, when you watch those roasts and you see people laughing after they get burned, it is such a. I mean, comedians will laugh at the technicalities of the joke and like, oh, that was a good joke, but behind that smile is just despair. You're like, oh shit.
That's funny. They did one after the NBA All-Star game, and they had like Shaq and Charles Barkley. Like they were roasting the NBA TNT crew, and they had Jeff Ross there, but you could tell it was a very like watered down version of what you would see when when he's on Comedy Central. And I was wondering if it would be, and it was.
Yeah, Charles Barkley does a podcast. He has a podcast, but he was on Conan O'Brien's podcast, and he does a great job of ripping Shaq apart on that. If you haven't heard that one, I would listen to it.
I haven't. What?
It's Charles Barkley is real charming and real funny, and he rips Shaq apart, and it's a very funny episode.
That's cool. Is there I'm not trying. This is about the horrible transition from Charles Barkley. Speaking of like I guess of even more so like famous people, celebrities, whoever. Is there anybody that you've met that's just been almost like surprisingly helpful to you in your career, where you can even look back now and say, not even that you wouldn't be where you were without that person, but just like, they gave me a helping hand maybe when they didn't really have to?
Well, before I get in, like, there have been a lot of local comics too that may not have the same name recognition as some of the people I'll talk about, but
Mhm.
the local comics that were incredibly helpful to me were Bill Bouchard. He's the killer in Detroit. Dave Landau, he is Anthony Cumia's co-host now out there in New York. He's terrific. Sal D'Amelio, Connie Ettinger, they've all been very helpful to get me to the point where I could get opportunities from some more notable names. But the guy that comes to mind as someone who's helped me more than anything and like kind of makes me feel like I'm in a position that I don't think I would necessarily be in without him was Rory Scovel. He's a comedian. He was the male lead in Amy Schumer's movie Trainwrecked. He's got a Netflix special out there called Rory Scovel Tries Stand Up for the First Time. I mean, Rory taught me that it's the most important thing about stand-up is having fun. Whenever I would go out and open for him, I would get off stage and he'd never say good set. He'd never say bad set. He'd never ask how were they. The first question he always asked me when I got off stage is, did you have fun? And, after somebody asks you that, especially someone that you look up to and hold in such a high regard, when they say that over and over and over again, it really kind of puts things into perspective. So I owe him a great deal. Another guy that I'm actually going out with next week is Chad Daniels. He's a brilliant joke writer and an incredible performer. He writes a lot of dark jokes. He does a lot of dad jokes, and he has been so gracious and so kind. If I could be just as good, if I could be half as good a dad as Chad, I would be doing pretty damn well. So he's been terrific. There's been some guys out there. Big J Okerson has been real kind to me. The Sklar brothers have been awesome. Sean Patton has been terrific. Those are all some comedians. They're all terrific, and they've all been very kind to me when they did not have to be.
So that comedy scene in Detroit, where it sounds like it's a little bit more uplifting, where guys kind of want each other to succeed, and they're giving you helping hands. Is that something that maybe you didn't come up in the other scenes, but just meeting other comedians from around the way, like where you've done shows, is that type of thing, at least in like the local city comedy pockets, is that common, or is it more like cutthroat in other places than it might be?
It's far more cutthroat in places like Los Angeles or New York, but that's because they're not small cities, and there's industry out there, and they're all vying for some like these few spots that are around town. Whereas in cities like Atlanta and Detroit and Cincinnati and Philadelphia and Madison, Minneapolis, those bigger small cities, if you will. I think the scene, there are people that people don't like, but I think for the most part, everybody wants everybody to succeed, especially if they respect their abilities and they're genuine fans of their jokes. I think that's one thing that happens in small scenes. Are comics tend to be fans of other comics, and there are a ton of great comics out in Michigan that I get excited to watch. People that understand that it is about having fun, or really hustle to craft these beautiful jokes. I think more or less it is encouraging, but there are people that'll try and catch you down.
What's your favorite city to do comedy in?
I love being here at home. I love getting up at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak, and I would call the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase my home because I live 25 minutes away. And both of those stages, I can get a little weird. I'm comfortable taking chances, But I love Philadelphia. There's just something about that city and comedy there. It's so great. Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis is awesome. Chicago's always fun. I have only performed there a couple times, but every time I have, Davenport, Iowa has been terrific.
It's a lot of Midwest.
Yeah, that's where it started, man.
There you go.
Tucson, Arizona was, I don't know. It's just a matter of if the crowd's willing to have a good time, it's easy.
For the album, was that all like one special basically, or was it bits and pieces of recorded performances from?
It was all recorded there at the Philadelphia Helium.
Okay.
So I was there I recorded it all at the Philadelphia Helium, and then we mixed together a couple shows based on how this joke hit here, that joke hit there, but it was all the same jokes, all the same set, getting it done that way.
Cool. So Philly's where it happened.
Yep, Philly's where that one happened, and Skunkman was in Madison, Wisconsin. So Madison, Wisconsin, Comedy on State for Skunkman, and then the Philadelphia Helium for Not the Worst Dad, which is cool because they invited me out last year to record, and they were setting up an album. So I'm sorry, a record label for comedy albums, and they invited me to be a part of it. So I was super excited, and I mean a little bit shocked and honored that they invited me. So I'm amped. I'm really excited for this one to come out.
It sounds like obviously you're comfortable and like confident in your material. Do you still get nervous when you go on stage, or after doing it for 8 years, is that something that's gone away?
I get nervous, but I think it's more so excitement. Like it's like, just give me the mic already. I don't like to wait. I like to get up there and just do it. I'm excited to do it. Now there are definitely times where I'm nervous. Certain shows, you're like, oh, there's something on the line here. You got nerves. You start thinking about how bad it could go. But for the most part, there are nerves, but they're nerves of excitement. I'm amped to get up there. And I mean, if you watch my shows or listen to the album or see me on TikTok, you'll see that there's a lot of energy coming out.
Where's all the energy come from? Do you just like their routine beforehand? Or you're like,
No.
I gotta get wired?
I've always been a loud guy. And stand-up comedy stage is the only place where it's socially acceptable for me to yell at the volumes that I like to yell at.
What do you think? What job would you be worst at?
Would I be worse at?
Yeah.
I'd be worse at all of them.
No, I mean like what job would be the worst at? With the value.
Anything that's. I mean, I wouldn't be good at anything that's confining. Sitting in a cubicle or an office or just anything like that. That wouldn't bode well for me.
Have you ever seen the terrible Terry Tate commercials?
The office linebacker guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what popped in my head.
I gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I never really had to think about it. I mean, I managed a bar for a while. I was an assistant. I was a salesperson. I mean, I did a bunch of weird jobs for a long time, and they all just felt very confining. This one just feels free.
Did you ever workshop your jokes when you were first starting out at any of those jobs?
I'm sure I did, and I'm sure I still do. My poor wife. I mean, I write something down, and every 5 minutes, I'm like, "Is this funny? Is this funny?" And like I said, she is a very patient woman. And once again, Emily Martina at Expert Realty Solutions. She will make your dream home a reality home.
I'm in an apartment right now, but maybe when I get out,
she'll help you out, man.
That'll be some brand recognition. That'll be the first thing
right.
I remember. You know what's weird is I was after Don Drysdale gave me your name, I was Googling to figure out, just do some research. And the second thing that pops up is at least on my phone, is Zach Martina wife. And I noticed that with a lot of celebrities too. Is that something that's just I
didn't know that was a thing
to you? Or?
That's the first time I've heard it. Yeah, that's strange. But I guess it's not as strange considering how much I talk about being married on there. There it is. There it is.
It's the third one down, I think.
Yep.
Like,
but with as much as I talk about being married, I'm sure that's a reason. One time we were at a show in just outside of Kansas City, and I was doing a show, and she was with me, and these old women came up to me after, and they go, "Are those jokes about your wife?" And I go, "She's right here. You can ask her." And they both these old women just hugged her, and they're like, "You are such a patient woman." And I was like, it was cool. But my wife's the best. I like to say I outkicked my coverage for sure.
It hurt worse more than a roast joke. You gotta hug her. I think that's pretty much all I had. Like I said, I've always been interested in comedy. So if some of my questions seem like they're out of left field, that's why. Because I finally got to talk to someone
I'm glad
who'd be able to answer them. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to downloading the album and streaming it everywhere, all the regular sites, and then the other one, which it sounded like a weird name, but I just Googled it.
Yeah, it's
not the album, the platform.
Oh yeah,
there's
I don't know.
Spotify, Google Play.
I don't know what that's called.
All of that, and
all
then
jacked up. I'm gonna look it up right now.
The last one.
Streaming services.
Stream services, fifth page of Google.
Yeah,
right there.
Streaming services.
So,
let's see. It's called. Who? No. Oh, geez. It goes to, of course, it's video that comes up first, but it's some weird chest. There it is. It is Title.
Oh, that's the
T.I.
Jay-Z one.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
All right. Maybe that's not as weird as I thought it was.
no.
I oversold it. I'm sorry, audience. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. On Tuesday it drops. Is it like midnight? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think as soon as the day starts, so does the album.
Cool. That'd be midnight Eastern time.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. But yeah, so go ahead and check that out. If you want to throw your socials out there one more time, because I didn't remember them all. I don't even remember my own. I just tell people to Google the podcast name, and then
on any social media, just search Zach Martina, ZachMartina, and you will find me.
Perfect. And then make sure you guys go check out not only stream the album, but check out the YouTube videos as well. You just get kind of as much content as you can out there. Very funny. There's another podcast. I forgot the name of it. It was not like it's going to help them to plug it, but I think it was some guys in Florida. It was like an hour, 30-minute long podcast, which is why I first listened to you on basically after I found it. It was fun. I'll see if I can let me see if I can find it right here.
All right. Yeah. Cause I don't know that I've ever done a podcast in Florida.
Big stand-up podcast interviews. It was the Big Tummy Guys. I don't know where they're based out of, but that's the one I listened to.
The Big who?
The Big Tummy Guys or Big Time Garbage. BTG.
Oh yeah, those are some great guys. Those are Detroit comics. Brett Mercer and Blaine Hill and Ray
where I got Florida
I think
from.
was on it, and I'm trying to think of who else. Shit, it's been so long since I've done it.
Oh, well, they're big.
Yeah, they're a fun group.
Yeah, it's just the first one that I went to after I found out. It's like, oh, let me check it out. But I thought it was in Florida. Maybe not. But I did just go to their YouTube page.
Ferndale.
And they had, that's where I'm from.
They're right up the road. That's how we do it. Ferndale. That's Big Time Garbage in Ferndale, which is a fun one. They get into some weird stuff. They're fun to listen to.
Perfect. You ever
Well,
go
dude,
to the improv comedy in Ferndale? I know. I said we were ending it.
Go comedy. I used to do some shows there every once in a while, but they stick pretty close to improv nowadays. And I'm a stand up.
Yeah, sorry. I was just
No.
that's what happened there. But yeah, any last thoughts for the people or any last words?
No, man. I just I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we had an uphill battle getting this remote recording going, but we got there, and I appreciate you taking the time and your patience. And I really hope everybody enjoys the album. And please come out and see me at a live show. They are always fun, and there's something. So.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Martina, because that is real name, stage name, same thing. Thank you for being on our podcast and being our inaugural interview, if you will. And I hope we get to talk to you soon again sometime.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you very much.
Sure. See you.
All the best.